So they'll ask you whether to, so you can just say, got it. If you say leave meeting, it means that you'll be out of the page. So you can just, have they indicated to you that we are recording it?
I'm pressing continue.
Yes, this is continue, yes. Let's continue.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we just to continue from where we left off the last time. Your unit 2. Let me go back to the beginning. Yeah. So this is the week 2, and the first thing that you have to know about is issues of time overruns. When you start a project, there could be situations where there are time overruns. So when there are time overruns, it means that the project is delaying. So what are some of the causes? I don't know why this starts your week 2, but that is what is in your syllabus. So yeah, so one of the causes is that when your estimates naturally contain uncertainties, when we are talking about estimate, you are looking at time estimate, yeah. So if you decide to do something for 3 weeks, but you are not sure whether the 3 weeks will be enough. Okay, sometimes if you don't estimate correctly, there will be uncertainties, or maybe sometimes force majeure like rains. If it's construction work, it's possible that if the rains come more than you expect, there could be uncertainties. Yeah, people may also include safety margins in their estimate. So sometimes if those estimates are not having the safety margins, yeah, then if an activity take the least time is allowed for, so if you estimate the time for an activity and you use the least time instead of the maximum possible time, so if the least time didn't work for you, you see that, okay, like you are driving from Accra to Koforidua, it's normally within 1.5 hours. But if you use the least time of 1.5 hours, let's say 90 minutes instead of 2 hours, and there is a traffic somewhere, it could cause the time overrun. Okay. So there could be so many things that cause it. Yeah, we can look at them later and then go through. Then we go to the next issue, which is about.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Hello, sir.
So what you can do is that because of the time and the
completed in sequence. Sir, can you take that one again?
Yes, that's where we are. Tasks completed in sequence. That's where we are now.
Okay.
So tasks completed in sequence. So there are many ways of. I don't know whether I've run too fast, but okay, I've not run too fast. So it's just the task completed in sequence. The next thing. Okay. So the task completed in sequence is looking at. So the next slide will tell you about tasks which are multitask or running concurrently. So I'll try to distinguish between these two. Now let's come back to the tasks completed in sequence. Tasks completed in sequence are tasks that run one after the other. We call it sequentially. Okay. So this diagram you see here means that there are 3 tasks, A, B, and C, and each of them will run for 4 days. And such tasks, usually you see that you cannot do A and B at the same time. You need to finish A before you go to B. That's what we call sequential scheduling. So you have to do A, B. Like for example, if you are writing exams, you are taking about 3 courses. You cannot write all the 3 courses at the same time. You need to finish one before you can go to the next one. Before you can do it. So when you are planning such tasks, there's no way task A and B can be done at the same time. So that is sequential. Then we have multitasking. Those ones, A and B could be running concurrently. You see that instead of doing the 4 days, so that we could do A 2 days, come and do B another 2 days. Then we go to C 2 days, we run back to A again 2 days. So you see that they can be run in as a multitask or intermittently. So those ones, you can always get to do them what we call concurrently sometimes. So you don't need to necessarily finish with one before you go to B, or A before you go to B. You can start with A. Sometimes you can even do A and B at the same time in some situations. All right. So sometimes we may overload activities in project management. We want to do so many things at the same time. How do we avoid this overloading? Okay, or over allocation. So if you don't want to have those those circumstances, like a student who want to pile up things and learn last minute, right? And then you have an exam next week, and so I will spend one day to learn a slide. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. So how do you avoid it? So you need to first set realistic targets. The first one there, don't force yourself into unrealistic targets. You need to prioritize tasks and projects. So every time you need to make sure that you want to do you want to prioritize the things that are important for you. You may have so many things, but you need to know which one you want to do first, which one sometimes you need to avoid. Then we have linking of tasks. The linking of tasks means that you need to connect. Sometimes certain tasks may relate to each other. So you do similar tasks, and then it gives you an idea. So moving from one task to the other may not be too difficult. All right. So need to link that. Like for example, if it's a transport business and you need to deliver, like your delivery service, if you want to, you have just 2 hours to deliver about 10 parcels. You need to link, you need to know where to go first. Okay, from one point where you need to can you draw everything on paper. That will reduce. Otherwise, you go to one end of the city, come back, and go to that place again over time. That kind of thing. So you need to link them, and you can also leave a float or a slack. What it means is that it's just a free time within your schedule. So you don't plan a thing, like, okay, I'll do this after that, no rest, then go to the next one. What if after the first task you are tired and you cannot continue? So you need to leave some free periods in between your schedule. Those are the things we call float or slack. Then you have to avoid the firefighting culture of projects. That is, when we say firefighting, is kind of the norm of project management, which is often indicative of an inadequate level of resources. So you don't have the number of resources you need to, you have planned properly, but if the resources that you need to use to achieve those plans are not readily available, you see that your project will be overrun or delayed. All right. Then in project management, we have leadership roles and managerial roles. The managerial roles are common that we all know about in business. Planning, budgeting, organizing, staffing, controlling, problem solving are all things that we have learned about. In modern project management, the project manager must see himself or herself more as a leader. So you have to create a sense of direction, communicating the vision. So you're not just managing people per se, but you have to inspire people. Okay, also to be able to help you achieve the goals. Okay, so you don't just say this is how we do things, but you have to make sure you understand the way people also relate to you and how their problems are. For example, people are paid very low and you are always forcing them to work. They also don't feel happy. You see, as a leader, as a manager will say, okay, that's how much you are supposed to be paid, so I can't pay you more. But as a leader, you have to sympathize or empathize with them and see what you can do about it for them. You can even advocate on behalf of the workers. Now, looking at the kind of job they are doing, they need more. So that's the work of a leader, to make sure people are comfortable and motivated to achieve the goals. Then we also talk about some managerial roles that will that were distinguished or proposed by Minsberg, one of the management scientists, and they look at 3 types of roles: interpersonal role, informational role, and situational role. Minsberg says these are the 3 core roles by every manager. And interpersonal roles, that is arising out of the manager's position as a leader, the head of the organization. You, the project manager, you are the leader. So you can play a role of a figurehead, leader, or liaison officer. A figurehead is anytime there's something about the project, you are the one they will contact. Okay, you are the ceremonial kind of head. And a leader, moving people, and liaison, trying to connect people. The informational role, trying to monitor, speak to the people, and disseminate information. And decisional role, being an entrepreneur, taking charge of the project as if it's your own project, and make sure you satisfy everybody. There will be stakeholder consent, what we call this demand handling and all that, resource allocation, negotiation to make sure the project moves adequately or properly. Then dealing with constraints. So in every project there are constraints. You can't have everything you need, right? Resource constraint, monetary constraint, human resource, and so many constraints, time constraint and all that. How do you go about it? The first stage is to identify the constraint. What is the problem or the constraint with this particular project? Is it about money, or is it about machine? Sometimes in an organization, there may be only one vehicle, but you may need it for different kind of projects or activities. So you need to find out what exactly is it. Is it money, people, or machine, or whatever? And then when you identify that, you need to explore it. Make sure you understand how that constraint really affect your projects. Okay. And from there, you need to subordinate everything else to the constraint. What that means is that you need to now sit down and take the constraint as the most important thing and see how best. So we have a big project, but the only issue we have now is that we have only one pickup. So you now have to make that pickup like the goal of the company or the business at the time. So you have to make sure whatever your decision you are making, it's you are able to link it to the project or that particular constraint. If it is about money, you know that we don't have money. So whatever we are doing, we have to make sure we don't overrun our budget. Money must be the most important. That's what we call subordinating everything else under the control of the money. So now we are saying money is the one that will move, that will determine whether we do something or not. Then you elevate that constraint. Okay, when you now subordinate everything like now you make it stand out, and sometimes you can find a way of allocating that resource and making it now useful. So if there's one pickup, we'll come out to the same one pickup issue in an organization, and about 3 different units are you looking for it. Your project also need it. So you need to, instead of making it you have to now get to a point that it is no longer a constraint, but by scheduling it so that we say that, okay, if you need a pickup, you need to book it ahead. Okay. And you can say that all Mondays pickups are for this unit, all Tuesdays. But if on Tuesday it is not yet your time and you need it, you need to contact the leader of the other department. So the thing does not become a problem, but it's rather a resource that is available for everybody. So it's about managing it. Then if if you find solution to that constraint, then you can move to the next one. Then so in every project there will be constraint. Constraints are things that are in short supply. You don't have a lot of them, so you need to make sure you get them over to your to solve the problem. Rather than making them problem, you have to solve. They should rather be solving problems. Then sometimes you need a project software for your project working. The manual systems can sometimes have problems. So there are many softwares that you can find. Some universities have software for their students. Unfortunately, UCC doesn't have one for you at the moment, but I think it's still manageable. You can learn from Google Projects, Asana. There are a couple of them that are available.
So your network is bad.
So what is the software that is available. Some are paid, some are also freeware that you can use. You need to find out what is available to you as a project manager and get used to one of them. Okay, then there are some disadvantages of software. I mean, of course, most of the software that you use that are very highly efficient are paid. You may
say the names again.
Some may be quite free, but some softwares are expensive, so you need to pay for it. The project plans may also refer the view of the software manufacturer. Users of the software will require appropriate training, and sometimes, yeah, the training is so basically it's about finances. If you have money, software is not a problem. Sometimes even the people that you want them to use the software may be hesitant. They may not want to use the software. They may be very hesitant. So those issues must be clarified. Then we have what we call the synchronous and asynchronous communication systems in project management. The synchronous ones are tools that have real-time response. So like we are doing now, if you are, it's a real-time discussion, like Zoom discussion, real-time. Okay, video conferencing, audio conferencing, instant messaging like WhatsApp. These are all synchronous tools, so you can get immediate feedback. However, if this lecture is recorded and now you are watching it online, like via YouTube, if you are now watching it online via YouTube, which is already pre-recorded, then it becomes asynchronous, because even though you can still watch and listen to whatever I'm saying, you are not likely to, you definitely not get feedback because I'm not online at the time. So the synchronous tools give you immediate feedback within the project team. Everybody will be able to contribute. But asynchronous is like email and those things you just send, and the person, you cannot interact. The asynchronous, you cannot have real-time interaction. You can only send them, the person will get back to you later. Yeah, like websites and those things.
Hello, sir.
We also have some financial instruments that help projects to progress. Now, the financial instruments,
Hello.
Be debt or hello, please, can you keep your can you write your questions, so
Hello.
maybe when we are done, I can answer them. Otherwise, then we are going to interrupt the discussion. I want to just record this one.
Hello, sir.
So, yes, please go ahead, Emmanuel, I'm listening. Yeah, so it's about debt financing. Debt financing talks about kind of loans, okay, that you can get, bonds that you pay interest on. Then we have equity in financing, which is basically about taking an ownership of the business. So if you need project financing, people may be interested, so they want to give equity, like government, NGOs, and development partners may have interest in a particular project. They may want to give you money, not because they want you to pay back or with interest, but they want to support the project. If it's a profit-oriented project, some people may want to invest so that they can get their profit later. But debt financing is basically someone or institution giving money and getting it back, sometimes or most of the time with interest. Yeah. So debt financing terms are, I mean, senior debt, subordinated debt, standby loan, debentures, project finance, and in bundles, and then refinancing and restructuring. These are terms that are used in debt financing. Please try to understand what they mean and how they affect a project. Then there are three phases of a typical project: start phase, middle phase, and the ending phase. We all know this. When the project is born for the first time, it is the start phase. When the project is in progress, working on it, middle phase, and at the end, when everything is almost done, then we can get to the ending phase. So there are cost estimates against time. You realize that when the project is progressing, the cost increase. Basically, that's what it's trying to say in this diagram that you see here. Then we have Miller's 4-phase project life cycle. Okay, so phase 1 is to define the project. Phase 2 is to design the project process. Phase 3 is to deliver the project that is doing it, and then the phase 4 is to develop the process. Okay, so these phases, there are key issues and fundamental question you need to ask yourself at each stage, which you need to really understand. I mean, for example, the defining phases, project and organizational strategy, and the definition, what you need to do. Then what is to be done are the fundamental questions, and why is it to be done? Okay, so you need to understand this. Right. Then we have issue of cumulative expenditure over time. So that the cumulative expenditure increases the moment you are working on the project. So the define and the design phase, you don't spend a lot, but the doing it stage is where you spend a lot. So the cost, the cumulative expenditure keeps increasing. This thing cannot drop. It can only increase because you are adding cost into the last phase where you develop the projects, and then the cost ends there. All right. Then we have Vice and Vaisoki's life cycle, which also is about 5 phases: definition, planning, organizing, controlling, and closing phase. That's another kind of project life cycle, where the stage you need to state the problem. The planning phase, you need to talk about how project activities will be going. Organizing phase is now implementing the plans. Controlling is to make sure that you actually define the make sure the project activities are running according to plan. Then the closing phase is when you are now done with the project, you need to hand over officially to the client. And this 5-phase system is normally what is used mostly by the PMI, where we have the inception, the conception stage, the planning, execution, and then the closing with the controlling mechanism. So every project must have a control mechanism to ensure that things are done. Evaluation is done only at the end when you are closing the project. Then a typical project plan, before you implement any projects, you need to plan. You need to have a project plan. The project plan will have components like the overview, what the project is about, what you want to achieve, the objectives, the general approach, how you are going to manage and execute the project, and then the contractual aspects, who are in charge of what, and the issues that are there, the cost, everything must be stated. Then the schedules, when will each activity be completed. Then we have resources that are required, where we look at them, the personnel or human resources, the risk management, how you need to identify all the risks that will come with the project and how you're going to manage it. We did risk management last semester, so these things are quite easier to understand there. And then evaluation methods, how will you evaluate the project and make sure you have achieved the goal of the project. Then we have 3 levels of organization. In every organization, we have the technical level, the managerial level, and the community level. So the technical level is concerned with the performance of specific operations, right? And tasks that are associated with the project. That's the technical level, the real activity. The managerial level talks about the coordination, integration of all activities. And then the community level it's also part of the managerial level in a way that it's interrelated to the community level, which is concerned. So the community level is concerned with the broader interrelation between the project and its environment. So it is part of management's role, like I said earlier, and it's normally look at the project and its environment. By the managerial level, it's limited to coordinating the project's activities. Yeah, so that is how we can work with the project organization. Now we have what we call the project structure, we call the pure project structure. Okay, so a pure project structure is typically like the organizational chart. Let me put it that way. Yeah, we have people call it the project organization. Okay, in the project organization, you have the MD, then we have the program manager, and then we have if you have multiple projects, so project A, project B. So each project will have a manager, and the functions of the organization, which is procurement, information, marketing, finance, accounting, everything would be supporting each project. So each project will have functional support directly. So all these functions will be under the project managers, not under the functional managers. So you don't go and there's a procurement unit or accounting unit. No, we have only the project department. So when you go to every project department, we have their accountants separate. Project A has a different procurement officer. Project A has a different procurement officer. So this is a typical project organization, and this is how it works for all project systems. Advantage. So this one is different from a system where we have the functional organization where things are arranged, so that if you want something, you need to go to the HR department and say, okay, give me somebody to work on this for me. No, now in the project system, the people that you need are directly under the control of the project manager, so the project managers report to the program manager. Remember, a program manager is the one who coordinates all projects in the organization. Then the program manager then reports to the MD. So you see that the program manager will have direct interaction with other senior level manager, like the director of marketing, director of engineering. So if you as a project manager, you need anything, you need to contact the program manager, who will now see where you can get the resources, either from MD or the director of marketing. Sometimes there could be situations where the project managers have direct access to this marketing and engineering director, the senior level managers directly. But with this structure, you see, which is a project structure, it goes to the program manager. So it depends on the organization's arrangement. Then the advantages of having this kind of arrangement is that the project manager has full line authority over the project. So like I said, all the people who are supposed to work under the project manager will have direct access to the project manager. And the project manager also has access directly to those in the organization who are going to support him. Then communication is easy and direct, unlike the functional where you have to now go to departmental heads and say, oh, we need this, need that. Now with that, authority is centralized and making it much swifter, centralizing the project manager to make use of resources. To work with all these arrangements to other people. Okay, then, so this is the functional system. So comparing the project system to the functional system, you will see that the project structure. Okay, so the project structure has project managers directly in charge of all the people, but in the functional system, you will see that the project managers work under the various functional heads. So you can see that project A, for example, the head of project A is the head of procurement. Okay, so they now report to the functional managers instead of the project managers. So this is a functional structure. And that tells you that the project A is likely to be a procurement project. So you see that all the things are, that's why put it under the procurement department. So we have project B, which also looks more like engineering project, and that's why it is under the engineering department. So sometimes we have projects that come and they are housed under the department. Instead of creating a whole project department for it, they want to put it under an existing functional department. Those things happen, and when that happens, the functional heads have direct control over them. All right. Then the metric system is a combination of the project and then the functional structure, where project managers have some control, and then my functional managers or directors also have some control. So it depends on that. It's like a hybrid system, combining the two. All of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. You could learn a little more about them, but the focus has been on the project structure. So we look at the advantages and disadvantages of the project structure. So the metric structure combines functional efficiency and that of the project, and then it ensures accountability. The disadvantage, for example, is that there could be potential competition and conflict between dual managers. So because people may now have two departments, it's a functional manager and also another project manager. So there's likely to be sometimes conflict between managers. between managers over the use of the same resource or the human resources. Sometimes this also results in interdisciplinary collaborations and tolerance when you are collaborating with people. But sometimes it also brings it results in conflict. So there are pros and cons for using either structures. So project system is, you need to during the inception, implementation, and phasing out stage. Sometimes every project would not sometimes, okay, every project at every point we need to start to implement and phase out. So the inception stage is when you are conceptualizing the project and thinking of how to go about it and what exactly you want to do. And that should also include the plan with kickoff meeting and all that. Now, implementation stage is when you deploy the resources, start the project, and do whatever you want to do. When you finish, you need to hand over the project. Sometimes the project may be to design something new so that you can use to phase out existing system. After handing over, you need to train and make sure and test the new project, the outcome to see whether it is working quite well, like maybe installing a new machinery for a business. All right, so we have what we call the RACI framework. The RACI framework is when you have assigned
I told you so.
So the RACI, people call it RACI metrics. The RACI metrics or the RACI framework discusses who is responsible for an activity, who is accountable for an activity, who should be consulted, and who should be informed. Now, normally those who are responsible are those who work on the thing itself. Okay, and we have people who are accountable. Those who are accountable are people who are who will now be responsible to account for that project normally to top management or to the project manager. And then people who should be consulted are people who do not participate directly in the activity, but they have technical knowledge and should be consulted, or they may have important role to play in getting this project done, or they may be important stakeholders who may need to be consulted before certain things are done. So you need to talk to them and get their opinion. Those who are to be informed are those just giving them information. So the accountable people are people who are normally like departmental heads or unit heads, but they don't do the thing itself. But there are people who are responsible, who do the thing directly. All right. Then we have key features of a control system. So when you have the project, you need to have a system that works with the control of the project. So you need to control every project. So you need to find out what points in the project would you want to control. Okay, factors that you want to control, and how do you measure the factors that you want to control, and what deviation do you want to tolerate, what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, and potential deviation before they occur. So you need to find out all these things that, oh, if costs are running above 30,000, then we need to start reducing the costs. So all these things must be clear for everybody in the organization. Then we have a cybernetic control systems where you have the input system. Okay, the decision maker is fed with standard comparator systems. So this one is basically like a control systems using the in the internet system, which is not really, so it's likened to how cyber systems work, right? So not really for our project, but at the end of the day, what we want is the output. But a lot of things feed into the output. Decision-making systems, the process, you need to make sure the standards that you want are met, and then you are comparing with something that makes sense or comparable to your business. Then we have post-control application. When you have control activities, you need to now go back to the system to see whether it is working very well. Okay, so you need to ensure that the project objectives are running properly, identify the extent to which objectives were met or not. You have to make sure the recommendations are made to top management. All these things must be properly addressed in every control system. Then we have what we call the change control system. Anytime there's a need for a change, you need to make sure the change works quite well. You need to make sure that costs and benefits are well assessed. Normally, there's in every organization, we need to have a change coordinator. Not everybody should just be doing things and be changing things or controlling things. The one who controls or the monitors change must make sure things work well. And that person have to work with the originator. Then it has to go to what we call a change request. In every project, there should be a change request. Not everybody can make changes, only approve change request. So it goes to all these network systems. And then you look at the cost benefit analysis to make sure that everybody is informed and everybody agrees to the change before you move. Yeah. So the project final report, when you complete the project, you need to make sure you produce a report. There should be a performance report, administrative performance, organizational structure, how things work in managing it. And then we have the techniques of project management, how you apply the systems. And if there are any deviations, you need to report them adequately. Then you need to review and audit your criteria. When you want to review and audit your project at the end of the day, you need to look at financial issues. You need to look at quality. Please let me just finish this. Okay, the thing is going. Let me record and then we can answer your questions. So you write them down. Then we have the human resource issues. Then we have environmental issues, planning issues, and control issues. All these things must be properly audited and reviewed at the end of the project, whether you are able to meet the demands or not. Then you can also look at performance improvements. When you finish your project A and you audit it, you need to see what have you learned, okay? And that will help you. What have you done right? You transfer to the next project. What you have not done right, you do it better in the subsequent projects. Yeah. So then finally look at the experiential learning cycle. So when you what we call sometimes the PDCA cycle. So when you do something, you have to learn from it, you adjust, and then analyze the next time you do it much better. So there are other key terms like